Okay, so you guys will have to bear with me. This is my first time hosting a live feed of this sort, but I think we are live. So first of all, let's welcome everybody to the CarrGuy and SixFan YouTuber Hangout. And so I'm going to start off by introducing myself. For those of you who don't know who I am, obviously you do because you're here, but um, my name is Jason, and I call this channel Old Car Auto Guy. And this is where I focus on the day-to-day operations of my small town Canada used car dealership. It's automotive related projects and, the occasional shenanigans. So part of this channel is not just me. It's my buddy Grant, who goes by Straight Six Fan. So Grant, introduce yourself to all the people here.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, so welcome to the CarrGuy and SixFan show. As Jason said, my name's Grant Tommy, and on my channel, I like to focus on what I like to call offbeat hot rodding, which is budget-minded, relatable, creative builds. And so, most of my time is spent in the garage working on cars and car projects, but I do little tool reviews and fabrication from time to time. So welcome to the show, everybody.
Awesome. So we're going to get started right quick here by just kind of giving a little bit of a hello to everybody who I see there in the chat. And so we've got on there Kip from America Bumper to Bumper, and Terry from Eford's Garage, and Frank Finelli has joined us. Thank you, Frank, for being here. We've got Craig Durbin. We've got Nacho's Dad's Garage, and Hammer Down Motorsports. Steve, thanks for popping in one more time. So here we are. We've got episode 2, and we're getting monsoons here in New Brunswick. It is pouring down rain. So I don't know what the weather's like in your neck of the woods, but my soul, I'll be glad when spring rolls around.
So where my computer is, I sit right under my thermostat, and it says 12 degrees outside. And it's supposed to, I did pull the Project Low Fairmont out of the garage so I could park my Tacoma in the garage tonight because it's supposed to get down into single digits. So while the snow has stopped for the time being, it is just frigid.
Well, we actually were into the minuses yesterday morning, and today we're at like plus 10. So I think we're doing pretty good, and that probably works out to somewhere around 45 degrees for all you American folks.
Yeah, it's spring can't come fast enough, that's for sure.
So we're going to start off tonight with a little bit of automotive news. Now, anybody who is a car guy likely was tuned in to Barrett-Jackson at some point last week. And the big topic, which seems to be surrounding the automotive world in Barrett-Jackson at Scottsdale this year, was CEO Craig Jackson purchasing that 2020 Shelby GT500 for $1.1 million. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I remember when somebody told me about that, and it's like I kind of conflicted feelings on it, just because it's like one, right? So like that car can't be driven. Like you have to be a car. Like I can't wrap my head around how you'd spend that much money. I mean, I love cars as much as the next guy, but you can't drive that thing. You just can't.
I don't think, that's the point. Like I say, what's the point? Not that's the point, but what's the point when you go out and buy these $1 million cars? Like, if I'm going to spend that kind of money, even if I had it, I want to drive it. So I think that I could be much more satisfied with something at about $20,000 to $50,000, similar vintage maybe. But as much as I like those new GT500s, I'm happy with a regular Mustang GT, I think.
Yeah. I mean, if you got to be able to rip on it some, right?
Yeah, I agree. And Kip from America Bumper says that he thinks that's better than the Supra selling for 2.2. And he's right. It's the same concept.
And I'll be honest, I didn't watch a ton of. I watched 0 minutes of Barrett-Jackson, but it is. And I think that's to zoom out to like make a bigger point about all this, just for those who may be tuning in this week, and this is your first episode here on the Car Guy and SixFan show. One of the things, like, this show is designed to like accomplish several things, and we always want to start off talking a little car talk, what's relevant at the time. Barrett-Jackson is the most newsworthy thing at the moment. We also want this to be about YouTube growth. We want to hang out for all the car guys in this niche to have a place to come and to join in the conversation. But we want to grow together. We want to grow our channels together, Jason and I both. So even though this was a topic that Jason put on the agenda, the thing I wanted to talk about was, and Jason, I know I sent you this message on Instagram, was what blows my mind when some of these events are going on is just how inaccurate some like pretty big time accounts can be. And the one in particular, because I love the color of this car. It was a 65 Dart, I think is what we wound up. Is it a Dart? I think it was a Dart. And now, see, now I'm calling someone out for being inaccurate, and I don't have my ducks in a row. But AccuAir suspension or air ride suspension, one of those two, called it a 71 Barracuda, and it was just so far off. But it was the most gorgeous, beautiful green paint job. Like Mopar's always had the best color schemes, and that was just so. That was my takeaway from Barrett-Jackson this week, was just that reminder of, like, if you're in, we're all human, so if you're in charge of one of those big time accounts, just how bad that looked for air ride suspension.
Yeah, and I see Josh Schneidertron 3000 just joined in the chat, and thanks Josh for showing up. And part of this channel, as we've said before, is learning other channels that you may not have seen or followed in the past. So guys, I encourage you, if you're part of the chat, check out some of these other channels that are listed there. These guys have worked really, really hard. Some of them are pretty big channels. I think Josh is getting up there into the several tens of thousands. He can clarify that on that number. I think it's over 20 now. And so that's what this chat is in this show is all about. So as we move on to the next item on the agenda, we wanted to talk a little bit about our own channel updates. And Grant, I'm going to let you go first on this one. Yeah,
so I want to say it's about this time last week, a gentleman, well, I assume a gentleman, only because like my subscriber stats are like 100% male and 0.3% female is what it tells me. But anyway, someone commented on one of my Fairmont videos that he's like, hey, that's my grandpa's car, which officially makes it official. I do own a grandpa car in the Fairmont, but so it may be the original owner. I don't know if I'm being catfished or not, but I think it's pretty cool. It is. I mean, all of the stuff he told me was believable. It's so I live in the Kansas City metro area. I live in like the suburbs of the next line out of the suburbs. I live kind of in a small town in the country, but it's just, I still call it the Kansas City metro. But I'm on the Kansas side. This gentleman was in a suburb of the Missouri side. So we kind of talked about a little bit about a collaboration of sorts. I don't know if that will happen, but anyway, I'm too busy right now to really pursue it seriously, but it is something that I probably will.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's fun to be able to trace a little bit of history, almost like your family tree. When it comes to guys like us who are into cars and trucks of many sorts, it's always good to go and find out some of the history on these vehicles that we bought. And for those of you who don't know, I've got a 79 Chrysler Cordoba, and I've bought this car back in 1995. And if you do the math, I was 20 years old in 1995 when I bought this car. So I'm in the process of trying to tune up the engine a little bit. And my dad the other day says, I was online on Summit Racing, and I see they've got aluminum heads for small block Mopars. He says, they're only about $1,000. And I'm thinking, okay, well, first of all, only about $1,000 is $1,000 US. So that's still like 1,300 bucks Canadian. And that's just for one head. So I'm on the I'm on the search, and Frank Frank Finelli might be able to help point me in the right direction, but I'm in search of some J heads, 340 J heads to put on my 360. And so that's the plan, is to get some of those and either rebuild them or get some that are already rebuilt. And I'm on a little bit of a limited budget for that, but I think if I found the right set, I might pay a little bit more money. But that is kind of the next step in the project of my Cordoba.
Which is ironic because I just sold that set of GT40 heads I had for Project Low Fairmont this week. So
yeah, we're always moving stuff around.
I feel you, Jason, on heads that are a great addition, but I think they're in this tricky price point.
They are, and you know, like I could do a little bit with what I've got, but all I've got right now are just stock heads, and I paid good money to have those rebuilt back in the day. But if you guys haven't seen my engine dyno or chassis dyno video from back in September, the thing smoked like a sailor. So I think it's got a few issues with the you know, valve seals and stuff like that. So
I see we've got some people subbing to each other here in the chats, and looks like Finelli Restorations may know a guy who knows a guy for you.
I just seen that. So, and again, that's it, guys. I encourage you. I can't say it enough. Go check out your all these other guys' channels, because they're gonna you guys are gonna help each other out. As we move on down through the agenda, one of the things that I did want to cover, which everybody I think can relate to on some level, is channel struggles. Regardless of what genre of YouTube channel you're doing, sometimes we run into struggles based on certain things. And one of the things that I find I struggle with is I'm a big numbers guy when it comes to analytics, and I want to see, you know, that click-through rate. I want to see those subscriber counts. I want to see view duration. I want to see all of that stuff. And I use an app called TubeBuddy, and for those of you who use TubeBuddy, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't use TubeBuddy, it's something you want to look into. One thing that I find, TubeBuddy as an app is way more accurate with the sub counts and the view durations and all this analytics that you're looking for than YouTube is. YouTube does only seem to update it every so often. So it's not really a struggle of the channel, it's a struggle of me and my obsession with numbers. But at the end of the day, I do find that I like TubeBuddy. If you guys aren't using it, look into it. It's a great help, especially with things like tagging your videos. So Grant, what kind of things are you up against?
So I use TubeBuddy as well. Right now I only use the free one. Every now and then I'll take on one of their challenges to get the license upgrade. And I know last year, you know, right after the adpocalypse stuff went down, they did have like it was like months for dirt cheap, and I did that. I upgraded for that, but then I canceled. And I do intend on actually probably paying a monthly subscription at some point. But I got to get to a certain threshold on YouTube. I got to make more money on YouTube before I can justify spending more money on YouTube. That's just the way I am. I think that's probably one of my struggles, is I'm, you know, it's risk versus reward. So I really, I probably should just put myself out there and do a little more risk instead of waiting for the reward. But what I think I want to talk about, and this is I'm going to take a little different route than you did, Jason, whereas you dug down deep and thought internally. I'm thinking externally. And when I go to a new channel, this is to help out, I think, other people. When I go to a new channel, first thing I look through when I'm trying to figure out about them is that a lot of people won't fill out their about page. And a lot of people, playlists are huge for me. If I can kind of see an organization of what they want their content to be, and they can show they got a clear direction, because, you know, when you're all over, up and down, all over the board as to what your content's about, like, I'm like, yeah, you know, if you don't grab me with the first video, like, you can tell me a lot more about what you're trying to do through those little things. And so I feel like that's an underused thing. Like, the rule of thumb I use is YouTube has given you it as an option, just use it. Like, I hated for a long time I thought cards were annoying. Actually, I still do. I think they clutter up but they want you to use it. So I broke down, and it's like, man, if you want the other people to stay on your channel, you want that view time, like, you have to use the tools they're giving you.
Yeah, and the things with cards that I find is that yes, they are a pain in the butt. And when you go back again, back to me with the analytics, when you go back and you check that stuff, and you can see in your analytics who's clicking on those cards, um, and quite frankly, those numbers are so low, I question whether it makes a difference. But when you're a small YouTuber, every view counts as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Let's hop back over the chat for a second, Grant. And I see that some of those guys were talking a little bit about, heads, I guess. Steve Hammerdown Motorsport says he's got Edelbrock heads on his 360. And Terry Eford said that depending on what the horsepower you're looking for, you could spend up to $2,000. And I guess what I'm looking for is I've set a goal for the dyno once I get this engine rebuilt again. So I'm setting a goal of 400 horsepower, and I really don't think that that's too, not realistic for a small block 360. I've been reading up a lot, and there's guys that are getting way more than that, and not having to spend a terrible amount of money to do it. So, Twisted R Racing has just joined in. How you doing tonight? And S&R Motoring is another channel that I've encouraged these guys to pop in, and I believe he's down in South Carolina, as he was mentioning to me the other day. So, any other questions coming out of the chat room there?
Well, and that is something I just wanted to make note of. I do keep a notepad because as I see new channels, like I'm going to go check out some new channels even after this is over. And that's the beauty, again, of why Jason and I have set up this show the way we have. First off, if you miss it, we feel like this is a good format for like a podcast. So you don't even have to like watch it necessarily. You can listen. And the other thing is like the power of two, like the perspective Jason offers to this versus mine. We've already learned new tips and tricks just in trying to like build the infrastructure of what this show is, because Jason knows how to do something I didn't, and I know how to do something Jason didn't. And like it's kind of like it's simple growth, but we're growing just because we said we wanted to do this thing.
And I see we got a question down there from Kip, America Bumper to Bumper, says, what kind of horsepower can a Ford 302 achieve without a ton of work? There's probably a few more Ford guys out there that could probably answer that better than I can. But I know in a lot of cases, the first thing that guys will tell you on the cheap end is work on the pump side of the engine, meaning get it breathing in really well, get it breathing out really well. So air intake and exhaust are the two probably least expensive places you could start with any engine, regardless of whether it's Ford, Mopar, or Chevy, or whatever you're working
on. To follow up on that, I mean, I am a 3-owner, but to kind of zoom out like Jason just did, there was Motor Trend on Demand has their Roadkill Garage. There we go. Whew. It's been a long day. Like extra, where Steve Dulcich, still struggling. He was talking about like, well, the best thing to do in any motor is identify what's it already weak in. So like my 302 has really crappy compression, and it's got a flat tappet cam, so the cam's really bad. So if you know where it's like what the lowest like barometer is or statistic is of whatever your motor is, that's a pretty good indication of what to fix first. And so that's why I've identified the heads on my car, because I want the compression up. I think factory rated it's either in the 7s but it's really bad because it's one of those oil crisis era cars.
Yeah, and same as mine. But when you're working on that stuff, the very first thing I did was I pulled the smog pump and charcoal canister and catalytic converters and all that stuff off. And of course, where we are, there's no emissions testing on any vehicles, no matter how new or how old. So fingers crossed, it'll stay that way for a while. We don't have to struggle with things like California emissions. But let's get back to the agenda real quick. And the next item on the topic here is subscriber count update. Grant, why don't you go ahead with your update from last week?
Yeah, so again, another one of the objectives of this show was to help Jason and I achieve our goals. We're both chipping away at that 1,000 subscriber mark, and so we thought this might be a way to do that. I started in, so early returns are, this is actually a fantastic outlet because I started last week at 804 subs before the first episode, and I'm up to 818. So I gained, it's an average of 2 a day, which is like, I mean, that's like peak performance for my channel.
And that's really good, because that's part of that game would have been coming directly out of this show. And that's, again, that's part of what we're doing. I know that I see, guys are subbing to each other back there in the chat too. So one of the things, we keep saying it, is that's what this channel is about. It's not for Grant and I necessarily to achieve our goals. It's to help you guys achieve yours as well. So on my channel last week, when we started the live feed, I started with 548. And as we sit right now, I'm at 534, I think is, sorry. We got that backwards. 534 is where it was last week. I'm at 548 now. So I'm at 14 subscribers from last week. And I truly believe that this show is attributing to that. And, again, that's what it's all about. We're all here to try and grow our channels and in part help each other do that.
And HONGOUT 4x4 is encouraging you, Jason, to put a elephant in the Cordova as a potential solution. I don't know if that's something you're interested in.
Hell yeah. Unlimited budget. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Oh, sorry. That goes back to the, instead of spending millions of dollars on a car, just spend 10,000 on the elephant. So.
Oh, Jason, you should buy a wrecked Hellcat and resto mod the Dova. You know what? I don't know if you guys, I can't even think of the guy's channel right now. I know that Sam Crack just bought a burnt Hellcat. There's another channel on here that I've been watching. The young fellow's been doing the same thing. You go buy one of these burnt Hellcats for, a couple grand, and you're getting a full drivetrain out of the whole thing. And yeah, you're going to spend money on a few things like, the exterior stuff, but the guts inside the motor and the transmission would all still be good. Fellow had a couple thousand, maybe $10,000 to put towards something like that. Yeah, I'd consider that in a heartbeat.
Well, and then the next issue becomes space, really, because you got to have space, have the donor car sit over to the side to pluck everything out. That's definitely something I'm up against right now.
Well, see, I've got a 2-car garage here at home, and my wife's car really doesn't have to park inside. I just heard her say something.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that's what that was.
Yeah. So I guess we've still got a few minutes left here. We're cutting down on some time, but if there's any other questions that you guys have in the comment section, go ahead and throw those out. We're going to open it up to you guys for a few minutes before we get on to the final part of our show, which is shout outs. So if you guys have anything you want to ask to Grant or I, feel free. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and actually that gives me time too. I'm gonna double check a pronunciation on the shout out I give.
Yeah, Frank, I was watching your build on the 3-car garage, and I live in town, and although my lot is I don't want to say it's a big lot, it's bigger than a lot of the ones around me. It's hard to fulfill those dreams when you live within a community that has certain bylaws and setbacks and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd love to be able to. I've got the room out there probably for a 5-car garage, and I would do it in a heartbeat if I thought I could find a way around that. So I think yeah, room is the big one.
Yeah, my wife and I, we're saving up money right now to buy some land because we want to build our own new house and kind of thing. But that's a 2019 objective of ours as well, and ultimately that leads to better shopping as well.
Yeah, especially if you're going to succeed in doing what you're doing with your YouTube channel, and whether the YouTube channel continues or not, the passion never leaves you. So you always have to have the ability to do that. And obviously, if you're fortunate enough to have the grad you've got now, well, you're just that much further or that much closer to fulfilling that dream, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's part of what makes it fun, though. I mean, I'll have to say it a different way than I North American dream. but yeah, no, I mean that's part of the gig.
Yeah, and Frank says, he says, I know that I'm talking like it's easy for everyone, and it's not like it's. I mean, the only constriction for me would be simply the ability within the limits of the community, within the municipality. But on the other hand, my business, I've got 4 bays out there. And the only inconvenience to that is the fact that it's not right here in my backyard. So I can always go out to the shop. I've got the hoists out there. We can do any welding, grinding, painting, whatever we want. And everything is out there. The convenience of having it in your backyard is just that. Walk out in your slippers and a pair of shorts in the summertime, and away you go.
Well, and actually, while we have Frank Finelli on here, Finelli Restorations, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, Frank, but you just tipped the scales at 10,000 subs recently. Is that not the case? So we'll have to wait because of the lag.
Yeah, and Hammerdown Motorsport says buildings are super expensive. If you haven't been following Steve's channel over there, he just built himself, and he'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's so I think it's 50 by 80 or something like that. Anyways.
Okay, so Frank top. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Wow, congratulations, Frank. That's pretty good stuff. Always good to hit those milestones. 40 by 80. Yeah, I knew it was somewhere around there. 40 by 80 on Steve's garage. And I wouldn't want to heat the thing as it sits right now, I can tell you that.
Well, Jason, do you want to start wrapping up the show? Because another objective is we didn't want to ever make this thing drag on forever either, for everybody's sake.
Yeah, no, that's what we'll do. So we move on right now to what we just simply call shout-outs. And before we do that, this is only the second episode that we've done this, and just within that short period of time, both of us have been receiving some requests just to give out random shout outs on our channel. And we're all about that, and we're having a ton of fun doing this. But the objective to shouting out channels are channels that we feel are worthy for a couple of criteria, and one of them is that A, they are subscribed to us, B, that they interact with us, and C, that that we're interacting with them. So we're actually fulfilling a supporting role for each other. And when we give these shout outs, these are some of the things that we're doing back and forth with the shout outs that we're giving. So if you guys are new and this is the first time watching this, even if you're not watching it while we're live, we want to make sure that we're shouting out a very channel worthy shout out. And I'm sure that Grant can agree with me that we want to help you, but we also want to make sure that you're doing the same back, that you're supporting us and you're supporting everybody else, and that you're doing what we are trying to do and playing that supporting role. And maybe you can add a little bit to that as well.
Yeah. Well, and it's the other part is we want it to be special. Like if first off, it won't have any entertainment value for you guys watching if this was all about us just reading from a list of people to give shout outs. I think eventually YouTube would figure that out and probably give us strikes against our community. So Jason and I both have brands we've spent, we've poured our blood, sweat, and tears. Maybe that's a little hyperbole, but we've put a lot of time and effort into our channels building. We don't want to, we feel like this is a very positive thing for our channels, and we don't want it to turn into something that YouTube looks at and says guys are doing things for the wrong reason. With that being said, to our channel shoutouts for the week, and I'll be honest, like, yeah, there might be a moving, you know, we don't want this also to feel like it's some sort of exclusive club. You have to be cronies or buds with us. There's very different reasons why we want to highlight certain channels the way we want to do. And for me this week, the channel is actually one of my better Instagram followers who loves following Project Low Fairmont. He's building a Fairmont of his own, but he takes all of his Instagram videos and dumps them on his YouTube page so that there's a more permanent landing spot for them. So while he doesn't necessarily have the best, like, say, library of videos, Paul Ricciardi, and that's Riccardi for Ricciardi, or excuse me, Riccardi. And I love his name on Instagram. It's actually Project Late for Bingo is the name for his Fairmont. And so anyway, I'll give him a shout out because like, he's the greatest on Instagram and he loves my build. I love following his build.
Yeah, actually, I just started following him on Instagram, and he's certainly quite the character. And Project Late for Bingo, that's a pure analogy to driving an old man or an old woman's car. So this week, my shout out goes out to a young fella, and I believe he is down in Arkansas. And he texted me just before we started going live here and told me that he was unfortunately not going to be able to make it to the live stream, because I did kind of give him a heads up that I was going to shout his channel out. And his name is Zane Hightower, and he has a channel called Apollo's Iron Fist. And he's just a small channel. When I checked there earlier today, he was sitting there at just 24 subscribers. And, you know, he follows me quite regularly. He commenting on my channels, and, you know, he's a big supporter of some of the other guys. Josh Snydertron 3000, who was in here. I don't know if he's still here or not, but anyways, you know, he follows him and they interact back and forth as well. So I want to give him a shout out for his channel. Again, he's new, only 24 subs, and I'm going to put, after we go off air, we're going to put both of those channels in the description box below so you guys can go check them out. And he's working on a Silverado, and it's I think it's somewhere like around a 2001 or 2, and he's doing a cat eye conversion on that. So he's got the new hood, the new headlights, and the new grill and all that stuff, which he's getting ready to switch over. So again, I encourage you to go over and check out his small channel and subscribe. He's at 24. There's at least 12 of us in the chat here right now. If we go over there right now, we would certainly make his day by gaining almost 50% more subscribers for him. So go on over there and do that. And at this point, I'm going to do my little sign off here and encourage everybody to keep at it. And I'm going to let Grant take away closing out this live feed.
Yeah, so the one last thing I'll say is just because this is a joint collaboration between our two channels, we do alternate every other week as to who hosts. So next week it will be on my channel, Straight SixFan. But with that, I will sign out my videos. Until next time.